is another beautiful day here for me in Washington. My name is Lee Bowden. I'm a content creator for the BOWDENS program, actually the lead of that, and I have my own blog too, of Loving Life with Lee. So welcome to my channel. I was struggling to figure out, so it's a vlog diary, so I don't know exactly how this is gonna go. It's totally unscripted and raw, but I figured I would talk a little bit about my daughter and kind of give the lowdown on her and how she came about. I've been married for going on 5 years and been with my husband for actually 10 in June of this upcoming year. So we've been together for a while, and I was one to like grow up. I didn't know if I was gonna want kids or not. I didn't think so really until I met Bowden, and we had almost had a kid at 4 years in our relationship, but it was lost. So after that I kind of hit rock bottom, and that's when I went traveling for a while and just kind of lost myself and then found myself again. But since then I definitely realized that I did want to have a kid with Bowden someday. Just one. If you ask me, just one. I mean, I went from not wanting kids to, okay, maybe I want a kid with you. And you know, years and years and years have gone by, and we've really developed our relationship. And one thing that we always talked about was he has really young parents, really super young parents, and my parents are pretty perfect aged, honestly. They're the perfect age above me, I feel like. My dad had me, and I'm the first of 3 when he was exactly 30, and my mom's only a couple years younger than him. So we have made this goal for so many years ago that we wanted to have kids before Bowden was 30. To not be too young but not be too old. And so it was kind of a goal. Well, anyways, we were living with a couple of roommates, and my roommate had a baby, and she was working as a single parent, and we kind of took her in off the streets while she was super big and pregnant, gave her a place to live, and so she got a job so she could pay rent and stuff. But I was stay at home at that point. I didn't have a job myself, so I would stay home and babysit the baby while Bowden and everybody else in the house went to work. So I got crazy baby fever while watching this baby, and she's super special and dear to my heart. But I fell in love with having a kid around, and it was just time. So, you know, one day I was, after just a long day, we were laying in bed, and I kind of rolled over and was like, baby, can we have a baby? All just, you know, love struck with the idea, and he said yes, with a big old smile on his face. And so we started trying, and less than 2 months later, I was pregnant. And so that's kind of how Charlie came about. And I didn't really like being pregnant. It was kind of one of those, like, I know this is what I have to do to have a kid, but it kind of sucked. I struggled at first to eat and stuff. I had pretty bad morning sickness. I was able to stay at, I was working at Denny's, at American Diner. That didn't work out very well. Once I got pregnant, I was diagnosed with short cervix. So once I started getting at all, even big at all, they recommended I not be on my feet and kick it down. So I quit my job and started staying home again, and I started working with the idea of having a blog and stuff again, kind of creeping up on my mind all through pregnancy. Yeah, it just kind of sucked. But all went well. Overall, I had a really healthy pregnancy. I was at risk for having a preemie because short cervix means that, there's not a lot of cervix there keeping the baby in. So when they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, it's just more likely that your water's going to break sooner, and you're going to have that baby sooner than someone without a short cervix. So I was kind of at risk, and just ready from like week 37. I was pretty ready and pretty prepared to just get the pregnancy over with. But that was a long 3 weeks, because I not only made it to week 40, but I was 5 days overdue. And I wrote a post about my birth story down below. But just to kind of recap, my mom at that time still lived in California. That's who I live with now, but at the time she had not yet moved here when I was that pregnant. And she actually moved here a couple of months after baby was born. But I wanted my mom to be there for the birth. So when I didn't have any Braxton Hicks contractions my whole pregnancy. I had no warning signs. I was waiting, and like I really didn't have any of those beginning contractions at all. So when I started feeling a little funny one day, I started tracking, and they kind of came on pretty quickly. And I had like a day and a half of pre-labor, which was plenty of time for my mom to get on the plane and stuff. And basically the day that she got here was like the day that I was waiting for that 411 or 511 rule or whatever it is, and just counting, and I was up and in a lot of pain, but they were so far apart. The contractions that I was having were so far apart, and they weren't so intense that I couldn't still walk around and do stuff. But when I did the next morning go to the hospital, because the hospital for me was like 30-40 minutes away, and traffic there and back could, depending on the time of day, be really difficult. So I knew that I wanted to get over to that area and be over there. Like I wasn't planning to like go back and forth. Like I wanted to wait until I was definitely ready, but had plenty of time to like get through traffic and not have it take more than an hour to get there. So we took off, and they listened to me and stuff, but I wasn't close. I wasn't even close to being dilated enough, so they sent me back. I did go home and come back the next day, still having contractions and stuff, and that's, my mom was there and stuff. And they told me, okay, you are close, but you're not dilated. I think it was at 4, and they wanted me to walk. So I walked for an hour, and that didn't help. They still turned me away. At this point, I'm having contractions every like 3.5-4 minutes. Like, what am I gonna do? So Bowden and I took off with my mom, and I definitely wanted to stay in the area. There's no way I was actually going home and like having the baby in the car or at my own house. Like I was 100% uncomfortable having the baby in the hospital at my hometown. I wanted to be at this Kirkland hospital. It's one of the best in the state. I love the staff. There's good stories there. Bowden's comfortable there. And I plan to have a natural birth, but was open to the idea of an epidural. I hadn't taken any birthing classes or anything. I'm a pretty strong person. But anyways, that was my plan, was to have a hospital birth, natural, there. And with my mom and my Bowden. And my best friend, who also does my photography business with me that I've been with for a long time, who's a total cheerleader, was gonna plan to be there for the actual birthing process to take photos and video of me having the birth. So I plan to have 3 people there, as well as my doctor or nurse or whatever. So anyways, they turned me away, and I was in just a lot of pain, but since they had me stop and like rest, instead of walk around, my contractions did slow a little bit. They were really painful when they happened, but they were more farther apart. I wasn't dilated enough still. So we wanted to stay close. We went to a grocery store and kind of walked around the parking lot, but then Bowden got the idea that he looked in. There was a rocks and mineral energy healing store. So we went in there while Mom and I walked the parking lot by the river. He went in there and got me some moonstone and some other rocks that were supposed to help and give me the right energy to get through birth. And also the moonstone was to help lactate and breastfeed and all that. And there was one, I can't remember what it was called, little green guy, that was supposed to help with the birthing process and encourage dilation and everything. So when contractions got to a point where I was like, okay, we need to go back to the hospital now, guys. This is a little ridiculous. I was able to take a really, really tiny nap. I had slept more than like 4 hours in 2 days. So I got like a small 1 hour nap kind of through contractions in the back of the van, but I woke up and they were pretty pretty heavy. So we decided to go back to the hospital, and we just go there and walk the parking lot there. When I got there, I was having enough contractions that we did go in, but they turned me away again. Now, the key thing is like so Bowden had these rocks for me, and I was sitting there getting tested and the baby being monitored, and like when they turned me away because I wasn't dilated yet, like I was in a lot of contraction pain. I was having contractions every 3.5 minutes. It was severe. And what made the difference was holding that rock. When I got in the chair and got in the hospital, Bowden gave me the rock that he had picked up, and holy crap, it was extremely intense. It definitely did the trick. They turned me away though. And both my poor mom, I mean, I was just not doing good. And my mom is there, and she's not like a confrontational person. She's not shy, but she's somewhat social awkward in confrontational circumstances. So she's like, but what are we supposed to come back? Like, how are we supposed to know? Like, what the fuck? My husband's just like, baby, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do for you. And I'm just curled up in a ball. Like, I would be the one to have the conversation. Like, if there was someone else and I was supporting someone else, I would totally have been the one to be like, so when the fuck are we supposed to come back then? Because, like, you can see her right here. But I was the one curled up, couldn't really talk or do anything. I was having super bad contractions. I waddled out of there. And at this point, I'm a pretty headstrong person, so I was pretty determined to just get to the car and go walk around somewhere. Bowden asked if he wanted him to go get the car, and at first I was like, no, I'll just walk I need to walk around anyways, so just walk to the fucking car. Ugh. Well, I got to the parking lot and was like, okay, you can go get the car. Like, fuck it. Forget it, just go get the car. So he takes off to go get the car, and me and my mom are standing there, and my water breaks. And I don't know why, but I was in a skirt, so it's starting to just puddle and pool my feet in the parking lot. So I call Bowden back. Never mind, I'm turning around and going back in the hospital. I'll meet you in there. So I turn around and start walking back to the hospital. I get into that lobby. Bowden, quickly is pretty much right behind us. I mean, I'm stopping every like 30 seconds, so he quickly caught back up to us. And by the time we got to the lobby, like my attitude was just kind of like, so my water broke. If you want to swab me, here's a leg. Or you can just, test the pool that is happening on your lobby floor right now. They hadn't even put my paperwork back. Like, they started asking for my information, and I was like, my folder is right there. They just gave it to you because they just turned me away for like the 4th time. It's right there. So they gave me a room, and like the process got started. Once I got a room, it was a lot better. I was very anxious to get in the bathtub. That's 100%, like I was just like, bathtub. Of course, they had to put the IV in me and all this stuff, and like I had to wait like an hour before I could manage to get there. My contractions at this point were like, whoa. But at least they were being nice. I got a good nurse and stuff. Trying to make it as quickly and smooth as possible. I got into the tub, and I probably would have been able to get through the pain of everything that was happening through a natural birth, other than I hadn't eaten and I hadn't slept. I hadn't slept in like 2 days. I had eaten very, very little. And so when I started becoming sick, there was nothing coming up. I had nothing in me to be sick with. So it was basically dry heave. And I dry heaved for about an hour on top of contractions before I said, okay, babe, I can't do this. I want the epidural. I'm sorry. He tried to motivate me for another little while, but the tub helped a lot. But I couldn't be in there because I kept getting sick. So, like, if I wasn't sick and I could have been in the tub, I could have done natural birth. I know I could have. And gotten out and actually done that. So they got me the epidural, which actually did allow me to sleep for quite a while, being numb. Super weird feeling. It like the epidural feeling was so so weird. It felt like having liquid in your body. So you're like, you're laying down, but you can't be too far down, because it works in like the way that if you were to lay down, it would affect your entire body, include slow your heart and your head down, and you'd not be good. So you have to be slightly up so that the liquid and stuff drains down into your legs and your torso and stuff, and for having a baby, that's what you want. So you have to be slightly up, and I had to kind of like do one of these back and forth things, because it would drop. The epidural stuff, gravity affects it. So it was more comfortable for me to lay on one side and have it, numb most of half of my bottom bar, whatever leg was on the bottom. And then every once in a while I get really uncomfortable, so I'd switch it over, and then it would be more on that side. So it was really strange, a really strange drug, guys, but it was magical. I mean, the process, is very important to stay through contractions, stay very, very still, just make their job as easy as possible and just stick it through, because once it starts working, it's definitely relief. I was definitely able to sleep, and when I did start to get this natural urge to start pushing, so they led me through that. I'm really glad that I had my mom there. I'm really glad that I had my husband there. They were holding my legs. They were helping me along with the process. Having those two support people, like if I had done the epidural and it was just my husband and having to rely on the nurses to help me, it would have been a lot more of an awkward situation. But because it was my mom and my husband and the nurse too was there, the nurse then could coach me. I had a great nurse who coached me and motivated me through the whole thing. Mind you, when the birthing process started, my best friend had gotten there, and she's a total firecracker. So I had this cheerleader in the back corner taking pictures of me, but she was just like, just like cheering me on. The poor hospital room's next to me. I mean, I was making noise, my best friend was making noise, and I had this just amazing birthing team there to help support me. I didn't hardly even, unfortunately, I have this really awesome OBGYN that was not able to give the birth of my daughter that I was really bummed about. But honestly, when it came time to actually give the birth, I had declined further epidural. When I started to push, and they asked me if I wanted to re-drip, and I said no, turn it off. Don't do any more. I want to be able to guide and know what my body is telling me. So within an hour, and I spent about 7 hours pushing and going through the birthing process. Once I got the room, it was 7 to 9 hours in the room from the time we got through the room and she was born. So the pushing actually was about 7 hours. And so at an hour or so after pushing, I stopped. So an hour after that, and I was pretty back to it. I couldn't have stood, but I could definitely feel what was going on. And at 7 hours later, by that point, I was pretty much back to normal, feeling everything. I walked and went potty about half an hour after giving birth. So the epidural had totally worn off. When she entered into the world, I 100% felt all of that. The doctor was really cool. We had put in our birthing plan that he wanted to catch the baby. So doctor definitely guided as much as she could, and then told Bowden, how to get her out. And so he caught her, spun her around for a quick second, and was the one to give her to me for the first time. We had also put in the birthing plan to let the cord blood be squished and entered into her, and it stopped pulsing after about 2 minutes, so they went ahead and clamped and cut. And she magically latched on and nursed within the first 10 to 15 minutes, so that all went super, super smoothly. The whole hospital was no one tried to take her from me for the first hour. I held baby, not even my husband or my mom. That whole entire first hour, we were skin to skin, and it was just me, and everyone was in 100% support of that. So my family and stuff did eventually come in, and my sister Jessie actually came in pretty much right after the birth, I okayed her to come in. But like my everybody else, her husband, my dad, my other sister, and everybody else was outside. And yeah, so she was able to be passed around. She's super social to this day, and I do think it's because we had so much love from so many people right off the bat. And just that first 48 hours, she had tons of people giving her loves and hugs, and like the whole process was just awesome. Everything went so good. And I managed to crawl out of the hospital running. Actually, there was no crawling at all. I had a micro tear, no stitches necessary. Doctor did great. I did awesome. And I think what made the difference for that was honestly, me and Bowden are super sexual active people. So I think that it makes a huge difference if you are with a partner and you're super sexually healthy, then it makes sense that having birth would be healthy. And for me, that was definitely the case, 100%. So I walked out of there feeling great after 24 hours, and just everything went super well. So that's kind of my birthing story and how she came into the world from start to finish, from the day that we had made the decision to have her until now. And I can't believe it's been a year already. We're about to celebrate her first birthday next weekend, so I'll definitely be taking videos and stuff of that and posting it next weekend. And yeah, so thanks for watching.